Welcome to Maker Camp.
Today we're bringing makers together for a paper animatronics jamboree. Walking, talking, reading, writing, paper.
And we'll make our weekly trip to Sam and Joe's Corner and check in with our counselors about the daily project, Shadow Puppet Theater.
So let's get ready to make something great.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Camp Director Paloma.
I'm Camp Director Sam. As always, we look forward to hearing from you, so post your questions during the show.
And you know what? I'm so excited about all of our guests. We're going to bring all of them on right now. Our guests are a wide spectrum of paper artists who are showing us how to bring paper to life and to tell stories with paper robots. Thank you all for joining us, and welcome to Maker Camp.
Thank you.
Yay!
Thank you.
We are so happy to have all of you on. So I was wondering if each of you could tell us about your work and how you bring paper robots to life.
Sure. Hi, I'm Paul Dietz. I'm coming to you live from Microsoft Research in Redmond, Washington. And I am here with Austin Coleman and Tracy Tran. And we have been working on various types of animatronics, and we've been pushing this new style of animatronics that we call paper animatronics, where we create these robotic shows using basic crafting supplies and a couple of motors, an Arduino, and some software. So that's where we're starting. And I guess we should have the rest of the team introduce themselves too.
Yes.
Hex out of these.
Oh, we're still there.
We're there.
Are we here?
We're here.
Okay.
All right, so let's start with Ginger. Ginger, why don't you tell us how you're involved?
Hi, yes, I'm part of the Texas team, but I'm actually not with them today. I'm in Vancouver, coming to you from the SIGGRAPH conference and joining virtually. I'm Ginger Alford, and we are all at, and I'm working with Luke Jacob, the writing instructor, and I'm going to kick it back to them and let Luke tell you a little bit about the writing part and introduce our student team.
Sounds great.
So I'm Luke Jacob at Trinity Valley School here in Texas, and I'm with Zach Harris, Courtney Owen, and Pooja Mudasani, three of our students. Dr. Alford and I got started with animatronics about a year or so ago thanks to Paul Dietz, and we'd like each of the students to give you a little bit of an idea of their own personal involvement. For me, it was just a way to connect writing to engineering, to computer science, to do some cross-disciplinary work, which we were very excited about, and a chance to work with Ginger Alford, with whom I've had a great time learning about how to make things that tell stories. This is Zach.
Hi, I'm Zach, and my animatronics experience has been great. And I first started during my 2013 summer during the 3-day workshop, and we created a show called The Great Escape, and we got to take it to New York Maker Faire. And then I came back to Texas and demonstrated animatronics at our local museum, Fort Worth Museum of Science and History, and they offered me an internship and then later on an actual job. So it's opened a lot of doors for me. I've learned how to interact with people and just have a greater imagination. So I'm very grateful for that.
Hi, I'm Pooja. I started animatronics before the 3-week camp. So Dr. Alfred had this, and Paul were talking about doing this camp, and then Dr. Alfred asked me, and I was in a digital imaging class, to do a proof of concept. And so me and a couple other students, we created Percy the cat back here. And so then Courtney and Mr. Jacob, they were in the creative writing class, and they created like a 30-second script. And so then we created Percy, and then that kind of Percy got incorporated into our show called The Great Escape, which we got to take to New York Maker Faire, which is really cool because we got to see a bunch of kids who got really excited about seeing our animatronic puppets and all that. And then earlier this year, Dr. Alfred asked us again to do another proof of concept for the paper animatronics, and Courtney and I were involved with that.
Yeah, I'm Courtney. After that first little bit of Percy, I was thinking, well, this is really cool, but since I don't have a lot of time for it, I wasn't able to do the 3-day workshop. I didn't think I'd ever do animatronics again. But then, when we did this proof of concept for paper animatronics, I got back into it. We made a story about a villain and a superhero. It was lots of fun. we made a little cat for the sidekick, and since then, I mean, it's been Maker Camp and all this cool new stuff. It's really opened my eyes and my life to these amazing opportunities. I want to take animatronics like as far as it can go. I want to see if it can help people, if they can change lives. So I think that's where we are right now. Also, I think this brings us to Phil, the flip phone, which we made. He's kind of our main character for the paper animatronics this year. Basically, he's a little flip phone who wants to be loved. He wants to be used, but he's upset because smartphones are, you know, pretty. He calls them pretty and fragile, but he thinks he's just as good a phone. And so that kind of drives his conflict in his story. He wants to be used, and he wants to make fun of smartphones because he hates them, but he also wants to kind of, you know, be loved by people. And here's Phil. He's basically just one servo here, a little needle here to keep him together, and he moves up and down at that joint. That's Phil.
I love the concept. Great idea.
And so then when we create these puppets, we use servo motors, and we can control these servo motors with our Arduino right here. And so Paul created code to run the Arduinos on our software called BSA, and we have that on the website. But there is one small correction on the code. We have to import the servo class, and it says pound include, and you have to put angle bracket servo.h angle bracket on there. And the code is correct on animatronicsworkshop.com.
Yeah, actually, that's the incorrect version.
Incorrect.
And the corrected version is just here with server data. Not sure how that fell off in the formatting, but
Yeah, and I think this afternoon it will be updated on the Makescene website as well. So don't worry about that. We'll get it. But now you know, and if you've been watching, it's like a clue. You have to watch Maker Camp. We're going to leave bits out of the code and let you watch the whole thing.
Diabolical, but that's how you get the views, people. Take note.
Well, thank you
have
so much for sharing that as well.
Zach walk through a little bit of the mechanical how to set this whole thing up, just to give you a few highlights of what to look out for in the instructions you will receive.
So you attach the servo here. You have a dark color, which will be brown or black, a red, and a yellow or white color. The white or yellow goes to one of the pins on the Arduino, the numbered pins. And don't use 0 or 1 because the code isn't programmed for those pins. And then the red is power, and so that will go to your 5-volt power on your Arduino, and then the brown or black is ground, which will go to the ground on the power side of your Arduino. And then when you create a character, you obviously want to give it dialogue. So we use Audacity to
It's not on screen share.
we use Audacity to
Yeah, that's such a great program. Audacity lets you sound record voice, and there are just a million fun things you can do with it. But the fun thing that we do is give our characters voice. So you can record your own voice, and there's this little pitch shifting tool that makes it sound like a critter. So if you're doing a cow, you can make your own voice deep or make it sound like a little chipmunk, and it's a lot of fun because part of the great thing about animatronics is that you start with your character, and part of the character is the voice you're going to choose. So that just makes building stuff all that much more fun when you have this great character that you're trying to bring to life.
Yeah, and something very simple as changing the pitch can really bring something totally to life and give it a whole new sense of comedy or drama. I love that idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the whole point, is you start with the character, and you learn about what does it want, what is its fears, what does it eat for breakfast, and so then it has expression. And so then when you're building, you're thinking about, how do I make this character have this expression? Do I want it to wave arms a lot because it's real excited? Do I want it to have a deep and gloomy voice and kind of move its head down? So you're thinking about the show and the expression when you're building. That is just part of what makes it really, really fun. Come up with a character, give your character an interesting question, and then make that show happen. So Luke and Courtney and the Fort Worth team came up with some great ideas for how you could think about to make a fun character. So I'm going to ask, like, Luke and Courtney and Zach, like, what are a couple of the ideas just to kind of get started? when we got started, this was what I learned from you guys. I wasn't a writer, so I loved your ideas about how to get started with writing.
Sure. Well, the most basic set of instructions and questions you'll find as you go through the project this afternoon has to do with defining a character's wants and needs. Beyond anything else, with Phil the flip phone, he wants to be relevant, and he feels like he isn't, and there's a conflict there. When we created Percy the cat, she wanted fish to eat. It was as simple as that. What she was shocked to find was that she was able to talk, and she thought, well, how do I take this desire and use my ability to speak to turn that into fish? You know, every character has a backstory, what they want, why they want it, where it comes from, and Courtney's done a great job in the instructions of typing up series of questions you can ask yourself about a character. Even if the script is only 40 seconds long, it's just really good to know what this character's all about, what she really loves, what she really can't stand, who her friends are, and from there, really, everything just grows.
One thing we probably ought to point out to him is once you have that character and decide what the voice is, when you use visual show automation, how do you decide how to make your servos move? So Zach, you've worked with that so much. I wanted you to just share a little bit about the two different ways to use visual show automation to make your character work.
So visual show automation, for short VSA, we use this program to control the servos through the computer. And it's a very powerful program, but we use it mostly for, or at least in Great Escape and other things, when we have character dialogue. If you want the mouth to move, we'll import an audio file from Audacity, and we'll do a wave motion analysis. Now, wave motion analysis uses the audio file, and it sends all that information to the mouth, and it'll move as it talks. So that's one thing you can do with it. Another thing we found out you can do is use an Xbox controller to control the puppet, which is very cool, because many people have Xbox, and it's just a pretty cool application that you can use to control motors through computer. Yeah. So.
Phil was wave motion analysis, and Percy was a joystick. So if y'all see the examples there, you'll be able to see the difference.
And Pooja, you had an example. Tell us about Abe Lincoln Cat. You used two kinds of motion.
Yeah, so here, when you use two servos, you have Abe Lincoln Cat. So basically, there's one servo for the mouth and one servo for the head to move side to side. And so on VSA, easily you can program the mouth with wave motion. But to program his head, when you click record on VSA, it automatically has like a little slider kind of button, and you can move that slider around and move his head. And so the cool thing about VSA is that it saves the program, so you can play it over and over again. And so, yeah.
Well, and so what is his character? When you were writing the script for Abe Lincoln Cat, like what was the basic premise that he was trying to...
So we were all talking about that, and so originally I was just going to have him say the Gettysburg Address, but then we kind of came up with this idea that like maybe he's kind of an Abe Lincoln for all cats and dogs. So he wants to unify two like estranged groups of cats and dogs. He wants them to stop fighting and come together and kind of work against pet owners who are kind of ridiculing. Yeah, ridiculing. Yeah.
You'll see that in our instructions and ideas and inspirations, there's a series of questions that kind of can go with any character situation. In this case, it was something as simple as if you took an historical figure and turned that historical figure into an animal, what would the animal version of that historical figure's personality be? What would that character want? Well, unification, peace, in the case of Abe Lincoln. Or if you took an animal and took it outside of its normal life and let it speak, that's what happened with Percy. If Percy suddenly were endowed with speech, well, how would her desires manifest themselves? With Phil the flip phone, it was if you could animate an object that normally doesn't have the ability to communicate with human beings. It's inanimate. It's a thing, a toaster, a blender, a car. Well, how would it communicate its desires? So to some extent, we asked the same question just in different versions for every character we've ever created. And you can see the imaginations of these students through the examples on the webpage.
You know, and it's cool. So in Tracy and Austin and Seattle did some totally different kinds of building. So I know another one of the prompts out there was, what would happen if your pet could talk? And so Austin took that idea, I think it may, and constructed a really cool turtle. And he took it beyond just paper. I love how he used styrofoam and paper plate, and maybe they could show how they built their characters.
Yeah, so hi, my name is Austin Coleman. So the turtle she was just talking about is this guy. His name is Sam the Turtle. And the way I decided to construct him is I've always wanted a turtle. So I figured why not make my own now that I know how to do animatronics. So it's kind of simple. You can just take things I found around like paper bowls and a styrofoam ball, and you just cut them in half and put them together, and you can make things like this. So this is Sam, and then Tracy actually also made her own, so she'll introduce that to you.
So, hi everyone, I'm Tracy, and well actually, my first animatronic, I was fortunate enough to come here to Microsoft 2 months ago, was Bobblehead Tracy. And as you can see, his mouth moves and stuff like that. And Bobblehead Tracy, she didn't really have any specific wants or desires. It was just, actually, we made videos of our animatronic selves to send to the whole group here at Microsoft Research to introduce themselves. But when I made my actual character, here was Jeffrey the giraffe, and his tail moves and his head moves. And like Luke suggested, I thought about what would a giraffe want, and I guess I kind of put a little bit of myself in there because I'm passionate about the environment and whatnot, and so I thought Jeffrey wanted people to stop going on safaris in Africa and like shooting at him, and so that was my inspiration for Jeffrey.
Can you show us the backside, how you built it?
Oh, yeah. So I think my background's actually in, I crafted long before I was into technology and things, and I found some tricks such as making these like servo stands in a way that they're not visible from the front, but they hold up the servos in a way that's very sturdy, and hot glue, popsicle sticks. I learned that was a really good trick.
What about Sam Turtle? Can you show us your tricks about how you hid his...
Yeah, sure. So I figured there's a lot of space between these two bowls put together. So if you can see here, I just kind of taped them down. And then I hid all of the stuff on the inside. So that's where all the Arduino and wires and all that kind of stuff goes. And then the servo, I don't know if you can see it from the side, is actually hidden within his head here. So I cut out the bottom of the styrofoam ball and pushed the servo in. That way you can kind of keep all the electronics hidden, and it's more focused on Sam.
Looks great. Really good results, and I love the innovative use of materials. That's my favorite when you have that art and technology kind of coming together. So they have really great life.
Yep, and good inspiration, good causes.
Yeah.
So much fun. Everyone should try it.
I hope that all of our campers do. I'm very excited to see what they come up with your inspiration.
That'd be great. Well, I hope they'll post it and send us links so we all can see.
Yeah. Yeah, our campers are very active on the Google Plus community page, so campers post your fun little animatronics there, and I'd love to see what you do.
Yes, and so we'd like to encourage everyone to come and try this. There is a little bit of complexity in getting all the software set up, but actually constructing the characters, writing the stories is pretty straightforward and a lot of fun. And I would encourage you also to check out our site, the Animatronics Workshop site, if you want to get into doing more advanced animatronics. And hopefully you'll build some really cool stuff, and we'll check back to see what you did.
But the cool thing is everything you need is in your starter Maker Camp affiliate box. Just a couple of servos and Arduino, and you can get started with animatronics, and then just the sky's the limit after that.
That's great. And affiliates, I'd love to see you get all that stuff together and come up with something really fun. Maybe you can get a Makey that moves its arms or fun things like that. I'd love to see it. So make sure you post it on the community page, and thank you for the very detailed description of the project. I'm very excited to see what people do with it. And we're going to have some questions coming through to you after we check in. But yeah, just campers, keep posting your questions to the community page, and we'll check in with those in a bit.
Yep. But first, we're going to take you on our weekly trip to Sam and Joe's Corner. They're going to be showing you how they do Lego stop-motion videos. So it's going to be amazing. Take a look at this.
Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about how to make your own stop-motion films, specifically using Lego.
So when you're making a movie, the first step is to come up with an idea for your story. So when you've got your own ideas, the next step is to build your sets.
So when you're creating the set that your movie will take place in, sometimes you can get away with using pre-existing buildings that you have from Lego kits that you've put together.
So when you do start wanting to make your own original sets, one thing that can be very helpful to do first is to grab some concept art for it. Commonly, we build city buildings, so an easy way for us to grab concept art is just to Google pictures of buildings in whatever city we're trying to recreate. Now, if you're trying to create something that doesn't already exist in the real world, one way you can get concept art for it is just by doing a quick sketch of what you think it should look like. Now, if that's not enough for you, one thing we've done in the past is actually gone to Minecraft and created a three-dimensional model of it. This is a great way to both conceptualize what it's going to look like in three-dimensional space, as well as communicate your idea with whoever else you're building if you're not exactly on the same page.
One thing to keep in mind is that you only have to build what the camera is going to see, which is usually just the front of the building. For instance, right here we have this building front, but there's no sides or back. It's just this thin shell. This is called a facade.
If you've got a lot of Legos, chances are you're also going to end up with a lot of rainbow ones. We like to use those for support structures, since they don't actually use up any of our good-looking bricks. Now, even though the iconic Lego brick is 2 studs wide, we've actually found it's much more efficient to use 1 stud wide bricks, since not only are they cheaper, but they're also much easier to remove when you're deconstructing blocks. Right now, I've got all my sets placed on this light stage that we built, which has this great cage here, which allows me to place lights wherever I want, and also gives me areas to put these colored pieces of paper that I use as backdrops for the sky. So I've got my camera hooked up to my laptop, which is running DragonFrame, which is a professional stop-motion software that I like to use. However, there's lots of alternatives. You can either just use the frame record function on your video camera, or you can take pictures with a still camera, or there's even free stop-motion softwares out there, especially for PCs. So now I'm just going to show you one of the simplest animations, which is a walk cycle. I use what's called a 8-point walk cycle, which basically means that it takes 8 frames for the minifigure to walk 2 complete steps. So I'm just going to stick one of his legs out a little bit, take another picture, and then I just keep basically repeating this process. And then once you've done that, you play it back in rapid succession, and each picture comes really fast after the next one. And that's what makes them look like they're walking.
We hope that you've enjoyed these episodes, and hopefully you've learned a couple things that you can apply when you're working on your own project. I'm Sam.
I'm Joe, and thanks for watching.
Welcome back. Welcome double back. It's Paper Animatronics Day at Maker Camp. We're joined by Ginger Alford, Paul Dietz, and Luke Jacob at the Trinity Valley School. Let's take some questions from the counselors.
Hi everybody, I'm Sandra.
And I'm Enrique.
Our first question comes from Cal, who's asking, what are your future plans? Are you going to study robotics or engineering? And this is for the students.
I guess I'll start because I think I'm one of the 2 seniors here. So I just graduated and I'm attending University of Washington next year. And my plan is to actually do computer science. So computer science, well, it can lead in a lot of different directions, and it may very well lead to robotics. So I'll see on that.
Kind of like Tracy, I'm not going into college next year. I'm going into my senior year. But I've always been involved in robotics. I was a part of FIRST, and then now with animatronics. And I found that it's really interesting to both code and build robots. So I'm thinking when I go into college, I want to major in some kind of mechanical engineering degree or computer science degree.
I'm going to jump in and say, yay, FIRST Robotics, because I was also a FIRST Robotics student when I was in high school, Team 75 in California.
Nice.
Yeah. So I love that program, and everybody should get into FLL and FRC and FTC and all that stuff. So just plugging that in there.
Okay, well, out of us, I guess I'll go first. I'm going to Tulane in the fall, and I'm going to do biomedical engineering, but I also might consider doing computer science as well because animatronics has been so fun, and I think that has really influenced what I'm going to study in college. So definitely computer science, maybe.
Well, I don't think you have to choose. I can do engineering and robotics, I feel. So maybe.
Yeah, I've always I was always thinking about more computer science. I've also maybe because of this experience I thought maybe I can try mechanical too. We'll see where the future takes me.
Yeah, I'm going to plug that you can be a robotics engineering student because that's what I am currently studying. So go for it. You can have it all, kids.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that question. And let's jump back to the counselors and see if we can take another one.
Cool. So, Paul and Ginger, this is for you. So some campers were wondering, what were you making in high school?
Okay, well, I made lots and lots of stuff when I was in high school. We didn't call it making back then. It was just people, playing in their basements and garages. But I think I built my first animatronic figure when I was 13, and it was actually a paper animatronics one. It was a penguin that I called Alfred, after the butler on Batman. And he was a very crude figure, and back then we didn't have computers, so he was actually all driven by a stereo tape deck, using one channel to move the mouth and the other channel to actually record the audio. So anyhow, so I've been doing this sort of stuff for almost 40 years now. So.
The things I used to do, I always played a lot of games, and I always used to make up a lot of games because they're fun and interactive. But I would spend late nights putting on shows, actually, with my cousins. We would have big sleepovers and put on shows in the hallway, draping sheets across and stick puppets and whatever. So I actually kind of always have been playing with puppets. Popsicle sticks and paper has just always held a lot of appeal. So I guess that's what got me into this.
Yeah, that could be very fun, and stay tuned for the daily project as well, because we've got the Shadow Puppet Theater. That'll be great. We'll talk about that in a bit. But I also want to chat with some of the youngins here, and you guys are fantastic makers. You're so smart and impressive, and I was just wondering, you have these great final products in front of you. They work well and they look wonderful. Can you talk with us a little bit about the prototyping process? Like, where do you start from in this hardware, and how do you move it on to this really polished, finished product?
So for me, this was one of my crude first figures I made. His arm's kind of falling off, and it's everything's going haywire. So I mean, it's definitely tough getting started at first, but then once you get the hang of it, it gets really easy. And then
you should show your robot.
Yeah. So this is more of a second iteration. It's also kind of falling apart, but it's a little better. And so this was after a little bit more practice, and I finally worked up to Sam, who's actually managed to stay together pretty well. So
that's great. What was it that helped you get over that hump? What did you learn from each iteration that helped you with the final product?
Mostly it's the materials that I use and just practice putting things together. Because at first I figured I could just tape paper on the plastic and it'd be fine. And in cases that worked, but in other cases up here it was floppy and didn't work very well. So then I learned in building these you have to have a little bit more structure. So that's why I added things like popsicle sticks to this guy, so he would stay together. So that was the big thing that I learned in making these.
I think my biggest thing was that when you're prototyping, or especially when you're building something in 3D, that you need to start simple. My first animatronic project, it was I think 3 days into when I got to Microsoft. I tried to build Olaf, the snowman from Frozen, and I had this grand vision of doing 3D foam, and it would look really cool. And this is pretty much what I turned up with. And that was really bad. It was terrible. So that was a waste of time. And I learned that, maybe cutting foam is not the best idea. So I would stick with 2D and make 2D paper. And I mean, it's not as cool as what I had envisioned, but when you're prototyping, definitely start simple, start small, and slowly build up as you've learned what you can do and what you can't do.
Yeah, and I really like that you dreamed big and had this giant expectations for your first one, but you learned so much in that, and now you can kind of see how you might change your design and work towards maybe creating that Olaf in the future. I want to see it, so you should do it. And I'd like to check in with the Texas team and get some of their answers.
Yeah, well, I think the main thing for me was time management. 'Cause, I mean, I've made 2 felt cats so far, and this is the first one. The back is kind of just clipped together. The head was sewn, and we didn't really have much time to finish this dude, so that's why he's kind of so packed together. But this one I actually sewed. I sewed him all up in the bottom. He has legs, but I mean, it was just kind of well, now that I have time to do it, why don't I just add more things?
So when at the end of the school year, Dr. Alfred sent me home with a bunch of servos and stuff. He's create whatever you like, and so. One of the first things I tried to create was this 3D peacock, and I had a Cool Whip tub, and I had a toilet paper roll, and it was really cool. But then I had so much trouble trying to figure out where to put the servos, And so then it kind of turned out to like kind of a big failure, like, but and I don't have it with me right now, but so that kind of taught me like that you have to kind of think more about where you place your servos and stuff, because tape doesn't solve everything.
Yeah, that's a rule I am currently still learning. I love taping things together, but it is a challenge. Can you talk with us about maybe some tips for servo placement on these animatronics?
Yeah, so like on here on this, I don't know if you can see it, but so on the Abe Lincoln Cat, when I placed the servo, I cut a little hole for it so you can put it in, like, when you tape it down, it's actually stuck to the cardboard, so that way it stays in place. And here, because the head has to move, I cut a bigger hole. I don't know if you can see it, but I cut a bigger hole so that when the head moves, the servo can still move with it. And because it's not too heavy, it's not like driving the thing down. Yeah.
Cereal boxes and shoe boxes are great for animatronics.
Yeah, they're one of my favorite tools for crafty projects, is being able to find, some really that nice structure of, like, it's hard, cardboard, but it's also really thin and very lightweight, so it's a very versatile material.
Yeah. That, and like Sam the Turtle, it's all about finding a strong structure. It's about the shape you want and gives you plenty of room to hide all of your components so you don't have to strategically place along the outside.
You might just be partial to Sam the Turtle, though, because it is named Sam.
I don't see how there's any connection there.
Okay, so let's jump back over to the counselors and see. I think we've got another question, so let's jump on over there.
Yeah, we've got a question from Vishal, who wants to know, what are some of the real-world applications of animatronics?
Okay, well, yeah. I've been thinking lately that we could use animatronics to help kids who maybe are autistic or have they just need help, so they can, tell their stories, or maybe just having interactions with something that's not human, but something that you can still feel emotions with. So I've been emailing the UTA Research Institute.
Yeah, last year both of us had an internship.
We interned there, yeah. To see if maybe we can get together, because they're researching into that with another robot that the kids can control with their body, but maybe the smaller ones are quicker and easier and cheaper, so that could be something there.
I love that idea. That's really great, and I really hope that you continue with that, and I'm going to be watching for it to find out how that goes. I think that having something that's you could even draw, just like put googly eyes on something, and you already start to have that kind of emotional connection with it. It's kind of funny how it works. So scaling that to like very cute little cat or something like that would really be an interesting idea. So great job. Anybody else have any ideas? Because I'd love to hear them.
Well, right now at our school, I think we use them for our 7th and 8th grade drama classes, and they use them to tell stories. And there are some people who don't want to act on stage, so this is a good way you can act, but you don't necessarily have to be on stage, just your voice and the character that you created.
Yeah, and I think that in the kind of overarching idea, that it really gives you an idea of how to use servos and how to be innovative with materials and thinking about things from an engineering standpoint. Not only do you have this great kind of moral idea and emotional connection, but you also get that hard engineering scientific background to it. So I think that it blends the worlds really nicely. And that's my favorite thing about Make Believe Week too, is that it's all about taking engineering and play and creativity and bringing it together in a really fun way.
But this kind of crosses all those boundaries. It makes you think in two different disciplines, because they're not really so different. And then when we work in Texas, we work with both Trinity Valley School, but also the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History. So all of our projects are kind of both of those institutions too, because we'll just have an afternoon so the museum can come and explore what animatronics is about, and then hopefully try it and come up with their own ideas.
Yeah, I really like that idea. The combination of art and technology really brings something special every single time that they work in harmony. So I'm very, very happy to see that. And then I think we have one more question from the counselors, so let's jump on over to them.
Yeah, so Tony asks, what software does the Trinity Valley School group use?
So we use Visual Show Automation, VSA. We also use Audacity and
Arduino.
Arduino. And Arduino should be free to download.
Yeah.
It is free, open source. No.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
open
So
source
is
is free.
Audacity.
And so is Audacity. So.
Yeah, if I can jump in, the thing that's we use for show control. This is probably the most important piece. We use Visual Show Automation, which is made by a company called Brookshire Software, and that's a package. It's inexpensive. There's different versions. There's ones you can get for under $100, but Brookshire actually donated copies for this workshop today, so everybody can get it for free to download for the purposes of this workshop. And build their own characters. So we encourage everyone to go and try it out. And even afterwards, there are demo versions available for free, so you can play around and try it.
Great, that's awesome. I'm so happy to hear that, and thank you for sharing that.
And actually, because I teach computer science at Trinity Valley School, one of the projects that Pooja and Courtney may be doing is writing their own show control software.
Ooh.
Yeah, kind of a fun thing to do. So
that'll be great. I can't wait to hear it.
So as soon as we got it ready, we'll let everybody give it a whirl if they'd like.
Sounds great.
Fantastic. Can't wait to see it.
So let's jump on over to our counselors and check in on the daily project and the camper pictures.
Yeah. So hey everybody, I'm Enrique.
And I'm Sandra again.
Yep. So here's what you've been working on. So the Boys and Girls Club of Hilton Head Island ended Maker Camp with a robot party.
Having so much fun. I love seeing those Maker Camp smiles and robots. Always more robots.
More Lego robots.
All right. And the lava lamps were flowing at the Muncie Public Library.
Ooh, lava lamps.
DIY lava lamp?
Those are fun.
And the makers at the Pakistan Science Club are taking to the air with gliders.
I love the idea there of angling the wings that they've got going on. So it looks great and great idea.
And water rockets.
You can always use more rockets.
5, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Whoa!
Beautiful.
So keep posting your pics on the community page.
Today's project is Shadow Puppet Theater. Here's a video that will introduce you to the world of shadow puppets.
Today's daily project is Shadow Puppet Theater. You need 3 simple things to start your career off as a shadow puppeteer. First, you need a theater. It can be made from anything you have available, like cardboard, a presentation trifold, or even wood. All that matters is that you have translucent material on which to cast your shadows. Next, you need lights. Make sure you turn off all other lights in the room. The key thing with the lights is to make sure that they are angled in a way that eliminates any shadow from your hands. Experiment with different angles to see what happens. And last but certainly not least, you need puppets. You can make them from any material that can create nice, crisp shadows. Some things you can use are construction paper and cardboard. The cool thing about Shadow Puppet Theater is that you can use colored acetate to add a splash of color to your puppets.
One other note about creating your puppets is when you're adding the rod that goes onto your actual puppet, you need to first create a flap with tape and then use another piece of tape to tape that onto the back of your puppet, and that'll give you both vertical control and horizontal control. Another thing that you can add to your show is sound effects. And here's an example of thunder using just a sheet of metal.
Sounds great, Sandra.
We actually posted a video, a silent movie that you guys can add sound effects to on the community page, so make sure to check that out.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. And I'd also love to see maybe you add the paper animatronics and make your own shadow puppet animatronic theater. That would be so cool. Let's combine everything, campers. And, thank you so much for that. And thank you, all of our guests today, for being so fantastically interesting and sharing with us your passion and your excitement. I'm so happy to have all of you. And, Sam, who do we have on tomorrow?
Tomorrow we're just taking a little field trip to Jim Henson's Creature Shop.
Right?
It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be fantastic. I'm so excited. So remember to tune in tomorrow. And if you were inspired by anything that you saw on the show today, remember, do try this at home. Bye, campers.
Bye.